Hello, everybody, and welcome to the DK and Bill Wrestling Podcast. I'm Bill.
And I'm Bill. DK. I forget who I was, man.
Yes.
It's I did that for your benefit.
Yeah. And
I know
this,
I'm DK. And
yes,
yeah,
this,
how
this
are you today,
is,
man?
I'm doing good. This is episode number 50.
This is a big one.
This is a
We're
big
like
one.
kind of, we didn't even do a poll. We're just like, you know what?
No,
We
we're
got to
gonna,
come up with a big name
we're gonna
that we haven't,
surprise you all.
that we haven't done yet.
Yeah.
And
And,
it's surprising since this is mostly a WWF
mhm,
themed podcast.
yeah.
We talk about other stuff too, but mostly WWF. We're doing Goldberg, WCW, man. I'm excited.
Yes.
This is your suggestion.
Yeah, it was.
I kind of fought back with you for like a minute because I was like, you know what? This is a WWF podcast. We can't do Goldberg. What are you talking about? And then I started thinking about it. I'm like, man, that was an interesting run
Mm-hmm.
for him. And like really one of their first homegrown guys.
Yeah.
So we'll get into it, but there's a lot of stuff going on in the business right now that we'll probably talk about first, and
Yeah.
then we'll get into Goldberg.
Excuse me. So, let's start by talking about the ramifications from Money in the Bank and now going to SummerSlam, as we're about almost 3.5 weeks away from SummerSlam. I'll say first off, the Money in the Bank show itself. Excuse me. I thought it was a pretty good show.
Yeah,
I think it's safe to say, and it's kind of weird to say this, there has not been one bad WWE pay-per-view this whole year so far.
I tend to agree with you on that one because like even like the what they call them, like the tweener pay-per-views, like
Mm-hmm.
PLEs or whatever we're calling them now, in
Yeah.
between. Like normally I would almost classify Money in the Bank as like one of those top shows now.
Oh, I agree.
And now you got Money in the Bank and SummerSlam back to back. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty good. Like I don't know what they're doing between SummerSlam and Survivor Series. That might be a little bit of a downtime maybe for some of the big stars.
I know that they're gonna have a pay-per-view in the beginning of September and a pay-per-view in the beginning of October, and I think even one in the beginning of November for the Saudis,
Right.
before we get the Survivor Series. So
Is September and October are they overseas as well?
no.
So, because I know they did the Clash thing last September, I didn't know if that was going to be an annual thing or if it was just a one time.
I guess it was a one time.
Yeah, so see what happens.
Yeah.
You kind of see some of the big time guys maybe stepping away for a little bit after SummerSlam, but yeah, we'll talk about it. It's not going to be a SummerSlam preview by any means.
Oh
We
no,
don't
no,
know
no.
what's going on, but we're
We've
just going to kind of talk about the fallout from Money in the Bank, and then what we think is the future here for some of these guys going into the second biggest show of the year, which I think Royal Rumble is.
Yeah.
Because
I think this is
chronologically, I guess they
Yeah.
kind of, it's almost like their halfway point to WrestleMania. So,
I mean, the biggest thing to come out of Money in the Bank, hands down, is that Jey Uso pinned Roman Reigns.
yeah, and you know what? We kind of called it, but then we backed off. So I'm like, they're not gonna do it in London at some lame paper PLE before they, like, why wouldn't they save it for SummerSlam? And then I start thinking, I'm like, oh my god, then it sets up the match. After I saw it happen, and then obviously it had to, like I said, it should be. I thought it was going to be Jimmy, just in like this crazy,
which
swerve.
I would have been fine with.
Yeah, but you know, you talk about the beginning of the Bloodline story when Jimmy was out with the knee injury. That's really when Jay kind of like set himself apart from Jimmy.
Yeah,
and like it had to be Jay to pin him there, but pretty historic moment. 3.5 years.
That's a long time.
And he just passed Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
For longest WWE champion, which is something, if you had told me a couple of years ago that Roman Reigns would beat a Hulk Hogan record, I would have been like, no, because these guys only hold the belt for maybe 6 months.
At
Maybe
best.
sometimes you see a guy go WrestleMania to WrestleMania, but you don't defend that title 3 WrestleManias in a row. And that's what we've seen. And I kind of thought it would get stale, but honestly, the storyline is going in a cool direction. And I think that you're almost seeing, like what I talked about in the last episode, was like a little bit of a Roman Reigns kind of, they're trying to get a little sympathy for him with the fans.
Yeah.
But that whole thing with Solo and Roman kind of attacking Usos there on SmackDown kind of changed that a little bit.
Yeah.
But now you're almost thinking, like, if you wanted to do a swerve and you wanted to have Roman kind of turn into this babyface, you could have Solo cost him the title.
Right.
Because Solo is the brother of the Usos.
He is, yeah.
Okay, so I don't know how you are in your family, but my brother, I don't have a brother, but if I had a brother, and my sister are just a little bit higher up than a cousin.
That's kind of how it works.
Ranking, like Solo, like, oh, hey, buddy, oh, I know you used your cousin to get here, but now let's take over. And then you should almost have like the bloodline with those three, and then Roman kind of go away a little bit. But I don't I don't know. There's a lot of stuff they could do. I don't think Roman losing the title to Jey Uso at SummerSlam is going to happen, but
right. I mean, we're so close to Roman hitting the 3-year mark as champion.
Yeah.
Which
SummerSlam when he won it?
Or
was it a September pay-per-view?
I think it was the September pay-per-view.
Yeah, over Strowman, right? Because Strowman that weird WrestleMania was
But you know, you and I, we're living in a world where people are going crazy about a title reign that is close to 3 years. Yeah. Like, because obviously we missed out on when Hogan had the 4-year run, Backlund had the 5-year. I can't imagine the fans were being like that, going like, oh my God, he's held the title for 3 years. How much longer is he going to hold it? I don't think, I don't know if that reaction would have been true back then 40 years ago. And I don't know if we're ever going to see this again when it's over.
Let me jump in on this too, because when Backlund had it, how many appearances did he have on TV a year? Not that many, right?
That's a good question.
Even Hogan, like I know he defended the title against Joe on house shows and Saturday Night Main Event. But honestly, Hogan wrestled for the title at WrestleMania, maybe at SummerSlam. Usually SummerSlam was like a tag match where they were building to another storyline, and Survivor Series, he was in a Survivor Series matchup. Like this Roman Reigns reign, like no pun intended, is probably the greatest in like maybe the TV era of wrestling.
I'd agree with that. It's in the discussion.
Like Sammartino obviously is amazing.
Like, that'll never be touched.
No. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if Triple H is sitting there like, how can we do this? Like, will people stop watching? Like, if Roman Reigns, okay, like timestamp this, if it's WrestleMania 45 and he's still champion, like, I don't know if that's the worst thing I've ever heard or the best. Honestly, like, it's a little bit of both on it for me.
Right.
Like you could go back and listen to old episodes in the archives on this podcast, and you can listen to me like totally complain. Oh my, I can't believe Roman Reigns beat Daniel Bryan and Edge after Edge had that amazing Royal Rumble win.
Right.
Like, what are they doing? What a travesty this is. And then everyone pissed about Cody Rhodes. And I want to get into Cody Rhodes here after.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, how many more times do we have to watch him face Brock Lesnar? Like, I'm over it. I don't know how you are about this. It's almost like you had to get Cody away from Roman so they could go into the other storyline. And they just, like, he's like a superstar. So you had to put him with somebody else that was big. And the thing with Dirty Dom, I like the new nickname.
Yeah.
Dutch Mandel didn't like it very much. I don't know if you he was a little pissy about it. But like Dom has this kind of heel mystique to him right now. So he can like kind of hang with a guy like Cody on a big show. So yeah, I don't know what they're doing. Like they have these two high selling merch guys. You don't know what to do with them maybe for this portion after Mania.
Yeah.
So put them together. Like I think it's a little bit too many times though. And they're like they're both trading wins, so I don't really know what they're doing with this. Like Brock's wrestling more matches than I've seen him wrestle
in a while.
Like he's like it's pretty impressive him being at all these shows. He's not going away for 4 months like he used to. It's kind of nice I think he's like already wrestled more pay-per-view matches in a year than he had since 02 or something.
That sounds about right.
So like, because like when he came back in 12, he would like wrestle at SummerSlam and then he'd go away till Royal Rumble and then he'd do WrestleMania and then he was gone again.
Yeah.
So where do you want to go on this? Like, I don't know if we're going to do an actual review of Money in the Bank with grades and stuff. Like, if you want to, we can.
Nah, I mean, it was a week and a half ago.
Yeah. Like,
I'll just say, like, real quick, my 3 favorite matches was the tag team main event and the 2 ladder matches.
Yeah.
Those are the 3 you should check out. It was actually a pretty good show.
Yeah, I liked it. My second pick was Damian Priest. Everybody was kind of hoping LA Knight would win just because he's this popular guy. And someone said that he's lost 22 of the 23 matches he's had on TV this year. I don't know if you noticed that.
Wow.
Like he has 1 win and he's just like, and you know what? I'm bouncing around, but
I know the Miz. The Miz won his first match of the year last night.
Miz is the best.
Just to go off topic real quick.
The Miz is the highest paid jobber in WWE history. Okay? That's what he is. He's a jobber. Look at his track record. He has turned like being a jobber into success. Yet you watch his show. He's amazing. I think Miz is a fantastic entertainer. I don't think he's like the greatest wrestler by any means, but he's entertaining.
It's like, and then we'll get back to the other topics.
Yeah.
With the Miz, and this is what I've always noticed with him. When he needs to turn it on and be a big time player, he can be a big time player.
Yeah, for sure.
So
that program, like that program that was basically a shoot at the beginning with him and Daniel Bryan a few years ago.
Oh my gosh, that was so good.
That you know what? That moment made me start paying attention to the Miz as more of like less of like this goofy guy that like thinks he's awesome and he thinks his wife's the hottest woman in the world and he's just the greatest and he beat John Cena at WrestleMania, like all that stuff he used to say. After that promo that he did with Daniel Bryan,
he was a made man.
It seemed like a legit real thing because it was on that Talking Smack where they used to like kind of let guys just say what they were thinking. So and it was, it was really cool.
Yeah.
Before we go ahead, I wanted to get your opinion. What did you catch Kevin Nash talking about LA Knight?
I did read his comment.
What do you think? Because I think he's more of a Steve Austin ripoff. Not saying like, okay, so when you're inspired by somebody, you're not completely copying what they're doing,
Right.
but like, okay, like everybody copies a little bit. Like look at
Exactly.
Hulk Hogan took his entire gimmick from
Superstar Billy Graham.
He started saying brother.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like there's lots of scenarios. Like Nature Boy, Ric Flair did it.
Right.
So I'm not gonna shit on LA Knight for
Oh,
kind of
no. Mm-mm.
doing a little bit of like, I think he's kind of like a combination of Steve Austin and The Rock,
I
but not in a ripoff type of way. I was just curious what you thought of that.
I think every wrestler, every character is in some form of fashion a ripoff of another character. Sometimes, depending on how it is, it could be looked at, oh, this is a tribute to that wrestler.
Yeah.
You know, I think the way I look at it with Kevin Nash, I think he's 50-50. He's half right and he's half wrong.
Yeah.
He's half right on, is LA Knight a ripoff character? You know, give it the time or day.
Yeah.
I don't think it's 100% complete ripoff because, like you said, Nash said Rock, you said Austin. I could see a combo of both.
There's two guys you can model your career after.
It's not bad. It's not bad
because that's how you get over in wrestling. It's your
and
promo and of crowd participation. Like when he says yeah, like after he says something, it's kind of like what?
right.
It's similar. And then
And
in some of the pictures, like he does have his eyebrow a little bit raised. It's not like as outrageous as Dwayne Johnson did it,
mm-hmm.
but yeah, that's just one of those things. I heard that on his on the Click This podcast, and I was just curious, like,
I think what it is. I think what it is in general, and I'm actually kind of glad you brought this up because it just, I got a light bulb over my head on this one. What we're seeing more and more of today, especially, in the social media era, podcasts, Twitter, all that, is a lot of the older wrestlers bashing, to an extent, the current product. Doesn't matter if it's WWE, AEW, Impact, whatever.
Yeah.
When we had Barry on the show a couple episodes ago, and I asked him, who are some of your favorite wrestlers to watch? He gave me like 3 names within a matter of a minute. And one of them was Chad Gable. And Chad Gable has become so good on the mic. Like, he's a hell of a wrestler. And that's where Barry's coming from, is he's a hell of a wrestler. But his mic skills have gotten so much better as time has gone on. It's amazing.
I think if now this might be a hot take, if given the right platform, he could be like a B version of Kurt Angle. I think
very true.
Because like Chad Gable is kind of like this comedy character, but he's like a really good wrestler, similar to how Kurt Angle was when he first came in. I don't mean like the machine Kurt Angle. I mean the 3 eyes Kurt Angle. Yeah, and like I thought they were going to kind of swerve him away from the comedy and Otis and stuff, but it seems like they're still doing that. So see what happens with that. Yeah, I remember listening to that, and that kind of like I kind of like started paying attention when you said Chad Gable. I did not expect him to say that name. Thought maybe he would say like Roman Reigns or Cody Rhodes or somebody on AEW that caught his eye. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we're seeing it more and more, and it's really dividing wrestling fans in general. Like I like over the weekend, the whole thing with Matt Hardy and Cornette.
Yeah.
I was not getting anywhere near that. And then I was thinking, like, the only thing I was thinking to myself was, please don't let Rebby get involved in this. Please don't let Rebby get involved in this, because it was going to be ugly if she got involved. But
You know what? It's kind of funny that you said like about older wrestlers crapping on the new guys. It's just like when your parents are sitting there like listening to their old shitty music and and you're like, oh, you should listen to this. And like, that's not music.
that's
Oh, you want to see music? I just see Kevin Nash sitting there like putting on a Survivor Series '95 VHS. Like, this was wrestling. Watch him go through the table. What's the first table spot?
I actually showed my 9-year-old nephew that spot the other day.
You were there.
I was there, and I told him that.
And I don't know if this is true, but they said this was the first like planned table spot.
Yeah, I
like there has been guys that have probably accidentally like fell off and
right, but it wasn't like
it's the first one I remember.
Yeah,
so. It's kind of neat that WWE actually tweeted that out.
Yeah,
I saw that.
So 2 quick things, and then we're gonna get to Goldberg. I want to touch back on Cody and
yeah.
What I've heard is they're gonna have a match at SummerSlam, and it's gonna be the end. It's gonna be the end of the rivalry.
Got to be like a big time stipulation then.
Well,
another lame match.
Are you ready for what I've read?
Oh my god. It's either going to be awesome or the worst thing ever. Okay.
The stipulation that they are considering is one that has not been used in a long time.
Okay.
They are considering doing a bull rope match.
Oh god. I thought you were going to say that. I thought it was going to be like a Caribbean strap match or something, which is similar. Okay. Is that where you have to like touch the corners, 4 corners?
Yeah, probably. And it probably means Brock's going to bleed, so.
Yeah. And you're not supposed to bleed, but if you're Brock, it's okay.
Yeah, because he doesn't get in trouble. That's where
Brock doesn't get in trouble.
Now the other.
Is there okay, the winner gets something?
No, not that I've heard.
Okay.
It's just going to be like the blow off.
That doesn't, I don't know. Like the matches have been good, don't get me wrong. And the finishes have been like well thought out.
Oh yeah, the two have been
like I liked how Cody got his win. And then Brock getting the win back is good. So is this just the third one, or if they already have?
This is the third one.
Okay, it's 1-1 because they've been kind of battling since WrestleMania. It seems like they've wrestled 7 times. It's only been twice. Okay, so maybe I should stop complaining so much.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like the rope match doesn't really do much for me. Like I'd be more interested if it was like Last Man Standing or like Hell in a Cell or something like that. But we see so many of those matches.
Yeah.
So maybe doing something we don't normally see. That's where their arms are like tied to each other, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be like.
So that'll be interesting watching Brock give him suplexes while he's kind of holding on to him with the rope.
Yeah.
So basically we got those two are gonna fight, and then we got
Roman and Jay
and Roman.
Those are the big two right now.
And then Gunther and Drew McIntyre.
Oh my god, that match! Oh,
the chops. I have you don't drink, but
I might have to have a beer for that match.
Like sometimes, like a few years ago, we like in Brock Lesnar matches, we'd like have to do a shot after every German, and it was like by the end we're like, oh my god, I can't even stand or like. You could do a drink like every time the Jey Uso hits a super kick or something like
right.
It gets outrageous, but yeah, you like the chops. So okay, so this is off topic, not really. I saw a meme about 5 minutes before I came on here. It said, "Okay, would you rather?" First one is take a stink face. from
Oh, yeah, I did see that.
after he ate Chipotle. And then it said, take a chop from Gunther.
I'm taking the chop.
I'm taking the stink face.
I'm taking the chop.
Because at my old job, we talked about him in the British Bulldog episode, but he went as Renegade as independent wrestler.
Right.
He had this match with this luchador, little guy. He was probably the size of Rey Mysterio.
Oh no.
Okay, so he had the match on Saturday night. He comes in on Monday for work because he's an independent wrestler. He made probably $120
right
on Saturday night. Kind of did it because he loves wrestling, not because he wants to make money.
Right.
This guy took his shirt off to show us. It was a nightmare from all the chops. And this guy was about 5'6", Rey Mysterio sized. He showed me the picture because they like kind of had had arm in arm,
right,
like in the locker room at the back. I seen Gunther. Okay, you know what? Okay, that stink face will be haunting. Okay, but I will still have skin on my chest, so I'm taking the stink face every single time.
But here's the thing.
Quote me on that. That's a quote, direct quote. EK.
But here's the thing, though. In that meme, it never said how many chops.
I don't care.
My assumption is you only have to take one.
Okay.
If you only have to do one, then I'll take the chop. If it's
Gunther,
multiple, I'll contemplate this thing.
A normal man could stop your heart with one chop. Jesus. That match at WrestleMania?
Oh
my God. Do you see the picture of Sheamus and Drew lying on the steps? Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I hope Vince pays us well for this.
I could make the argument, and I'm not going to today, but I can make the argument. Gunther's the best wrestler going today.
Best wrestler.
Yeah. But
yeah,
that's another argument for another time.
I don't know, honestly, normally when we do these debates, I try to come up with somebody that might be number two, and then we can discuss them. Yeah, I don't have an argument there for wrestler, when you say wrestler. So, anything else going into Shayna and Ronda? I guess I think Ronda's leaving.
Yeah, I think they're gonna do a match at Summerslam. I think.
Boy, because under my understanding, it sounded like they were going to prolong this tag team, and then this was going to happen at WrestleMania.
Mm-hmm.
But Ronda had an out in her contract or something, so they kind of just sped it up.
That makes sense.
So
she probably wants to put her friend over. So.
And they're good. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. They're really good friends. So maybe we get the Shayna Baszler we got a few years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of this dominating force.
Yeah.
Because I would love to see a Shayna Rhea Ripley match where Shayna is this kind of badass. I think they would have a good program. So maybe they're pushing towards that because so far Rhea's opponents haven't been that great. I haven't once thought she would lose. Right. So see what happens there. Anything else you want to talk about for pre-SummerSlam? I'm sure we'll do a SummerSlam preview show.
I'm sure we will. No, I don't have any
on schedules and stuff. Summertime's a little bit busier for people.
Yep. All right, so let's talk about Bill Goldberg.
Okay.
Why did I choose Bill Goldberg? I'm sure a lot of you are asking. Well, I honestly wanted to throw a curveball.
Yeah. And I missed, I was timing it.
And I think I did a pretty good job.
Yeah. Well, because I kind of said, okay, this episode 50.
Yeah.
Who haven't we done?
Exactly.
Big time guys. Now, the show, before it was on the platforms, our first episode was a banger. Chris Benoit.
Mm-hmm.
When I created this podcast and I asked you to join me on it, I wanted controversial stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, we got to start with Chris Benoit.
Right.
Episode 1. Then we went. It was more like kind of like tragedy stuff. Owen Hart
Right.
was
Owen
there.
Hart. I think we did Brian Pillman at one point.
I don't think we've done Pillman yet.
Oh, we haven't. Okay.
We haven't. Pillman is definitely going to be coming up here soon.
Yeah.
We did Andre, and we did Macho Man Randy Savage.
Right.
And then when we transitioned to the Apple podcast and stuff,
Spotify
and like
and
where you can listen to it, our first episode was Hulk Hogan Part 1 and Part 2. That was huge.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite episodes we ever did. So this is kind of cool because you got a little bit of a link there, and like we're just going to do Goldberg, I think WCW.
Yeah.
Because the WWE stuff we can talk about on a later date.
Yeah. And what's kind of cool with how we've done our bios, like I'll use The Undertaker, for example. We only did Part 1. There's still like 2 or 3 more parts of The Undertaker still to come.
Yeah, we still got like
another one of The Rock still to do.
The American Badass version, and then when he comes back at Mania 20.
And we also still have Bret Hart and WCW yet to come.
Yep.
So we've got we've got a lot, that we're gonna get to at a certain point. So for some reason, Goldberg's name just popped into my head. And I'm like, we've never really done WCW. Like we've mentioned Hogan and WCW, but that's really.
I think like we did a DDP episode. That's probably.
Oh yeah, we did DDP. That's true.
That's probably.
But Goldberg,
we did for them.
But Goldberg is such a phenomenon that you had, like, if you were around, like DK and I were, like you'd understand it, and maybe the younger fans don't. I'm not trying to insult our younger fans. Believe me, I'm not. I don't think they understand maybe the significance of Goldberg for that time.
Yeah.
Because he was like a shooting star, and it just faded within a few years, not because of any scandals or anything. He just was done, Yeah. So
we'll talk about it. We'll go in chronological.
Yeah. So real quick, before we get into Bill Goldberg's wrestling career, I'm just going to mention his football career. It's going to be very brief. He played 3 years at the University of Georgia as a defensive tackle. So he was in school. He was drafted.
You gotta put the hat on if you're going to do JR.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I actually have it here. Hold on.
Goldberg
went to school.
He has it right next to his computer. It's freaking on. So this is just in case I go into full JR.
Right. So then he gets drafted by the Los Angeles Rams in the 11th round of the 1990 NFL draft.
And I think, didn't he get hurt in his senior year of college? That's why he fell.
I believe so.
I think he got like a ACL or something.
I'm going to throw you a quick one.
11th round. Okay, so now there's 7 rounds. I don't know when they changed that.
Yeah.
So basically a drafted guy.
All right, I'm going to throw you a quick one.
All right.
Who was the number 1 pick of that draft that year?
Well, what year was the draft?
1990.
Oh, what team was it? I might have a better chance.
The Colts had the number 1 pick that year.
Colts, 1990.
They got it in a trade from Atlanta.
Can you tell me the position?
Quarterback.
Oh.
Like every draft for the last 100+ years, it feels like.
1990 quarterback for Indy. I'm spacing a little bit here.
All right. Jeff George.
Oh, right. Jeff George.
Little Jeff George. Mr. I'm bigger than the league, Jeff George. So anyway, so he didn't, like team-wise, he was with the Rams for their practice squad for 2 years. Then he did 2 years in and I want to get this right, the World League of American Football, where he played for Sacramento.
Like an arena league?
No, it was an outdoor league.
World League of American Football.
Yep.
Never heard of that.
He played for the Sacramento Surge. And then the next year, the team name was changed to the Sacramento Gold Miners.
Goldberg on the Gold Miners.
There you go. Then he had.
Anyone have a Gold Miners Goldberg jersey?
Yeah, if you
that
have.
would be pretty cool.
So then he played 3 years with the Atlanta Falcons. And famously, he was the first person ever to be cut by the Carolina Panthers.
Nice.
That is a legit story.
The first player cut?
The first player the Panthers ever cut.
Oh, because he was in the expansion draft and then they cut him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And according to this, his NFL career ended when he tore his lower abdomen off his pelvis.
Jesus.
Yeah.
That sounds ouchy.
So now we can officially.
Hey, hold on a second. Okay, I'm going to be Goldberg. Okay, I'm not going to do his voice, but I just tore my abdomen off my pelvis. So you know what? I'm going to give Eric Bischoff a call. That's what happened? Because I've seen documentaries. I'm pretty sure he knew some of the wrestlers because he used to work out in the same gym because he played for the Falcons.
Well,
that's kind of how he.
Kind of right and kind of wrong on this
one. I'm not kind of wrong. I'm always right.
Okay.
Your rebuttal.
So,
your fancy internet.
He began in about 96, 97. He began training for powerlifting and MMA back when MMA was young. Okay. When he was spotted by Lex Luger and Sting. And they both convinced him to try pro wrestling. Well, Goldberg was not a fan of pro wrestling. I don't think he'd ever been a fan. I don't think he even watched it. But his football career really wasn't going anywhere. So he went to the WCW power plant, the famed WCW power plant.
This is in 96?
96. Okay. We'll go like end of 96 into 97. Just kind of a time frame.
Okay.
Boy, that will be, that would be an episode I'd love to do in itself, the WCW power plant. Be like, want to know one of the reasons why WCW closed? The power plant.
Well, the power plant was around before like the performance center. So
right. It was years ahead. Yeah.
They started the whole thing kind of. They just, I don't know.
Yeah.
Seemed like it worked pretty well.
So I remember, this may sound weird, but I remember his debut match.
So do I.
September 22nd, 1997. It is an episode of Monday Nitro.
Okay, hold on a second.
Okay.
This is the same Monday. Madison Square Garden, Steve Austin, Stunn, and Vince McMahon.
Right.
That is a historic Monday.
It is.
Okay, before we start this, before we start like the Goldberg thing, do you think they were trying? Now, they're not similar. Their styles aren't similar. Do you think it's just a coincidence that he was bald and had a goatee and wore black trunks?
Yes, it was just coincidence.
You think so?
I really do.
Because the biggest star in the business, not at September 22nd, but like he was coming up as being the biggest star. I'm talking about Steve Austin.
Right.
And then this new guy comes out and he's dressed exactly like him, but he's bigger. I don't know. I always thought that they were trying to like do something there, like a little bit of swerve, because Bischoff told Austin he'd never make money wearing black trunks and black boots, and
Right.
then he brings out his new star, which we didn't know that he was going to be a star yet.
You didn't know,
Wearing
yeah.
a goatee, bald, black trunks.
Yeah, I've honestly never bought into that argument.
Really? Because
Never.
I always did. I kind of thought it was like, oh, we'll just create our own.
The only difference really between them is the tattoo that Goldberg has.
Yeah.
That's the only difference. So,
Yeah.
okay. So Hugh Morris at this time, he's on a good run. He is. And Bill Goldberg's in the ring. And this part I remember for like years. Because Mike Tenay is on commentary at this time. So Tony Schiavone's like, so Mike, what do you have on Bill Goldberg? And Mike's like, I don't have anything.
Yeah, wasn't he like going through his papers or something? Like, I know who this guy is.
I've never heard of him. And they're like, wow, we finally stopped today.
Do you think it was an organic thing, or they knew what they were doing with him from the beginning?
You mean with Bill Goldberg?
Yeah, I don't mean what the streak and what we're going to talk about. I just mean, do you know, like, that when they put him on Nitro, that they're going to push him to the freaking moon?
I don't
at
think
that
so.
point. Or you think like, hey, well, let's give this guy a shot.
They probably were like, let's give him a shot, see what happens.
I'll be honest. I was a WWE guy. I watched Raw. Now in Canada on TSN, we couldn't watch Nitro live. It aired on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. I started watching Nitro after Goldberg because I was like, I got to see this guy. And they pushed him and pushed him and pushed him. He was like in a 2-minute match every night. I was that was the guy. Like I watched a little bit when Scott Hall and Kevin Nash went there in the NWO and stuff. But Goldberg is what kind of got me to watch both.
Right.
Yeah.
So during the match, Hugh Morris hits his finishing move, which was a moonsault. Goldberg kicks out of the moonsault.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the match, Goldberg does this move, which I don't think anyone had ever seen at the time. He picks Hugh Morris up for vertical suplex, standard suplex setup. He then takes him and kind of flips him down and body slams him. And he beats Hugh Morris to the amazement of everybody. And then Mean Gene tries to get an interview with Goldberg, and Goldberg doesn't say a word. He just walks away.
And that was awesome.
Yeah, like that was well done.
Like if he would have started talking and saying, did the who's next thing right away. Like I don't think it would have worked out as well as it did. The other impressive part about that match, do you remember the part where he was standing there and he just did a backflip?
Yeah.
I'm like, this guy's I don't know how big Goldberg is. I'm assuming 6'3", 250. I'm like,
6'4", 285.
Okay, 6'4", 285. That is amazing. A standing, it's not like he's jumping on a trampoline, does backflip. The standing backflip. And then Hugh Morris is just like, what? Yeah, and him kicking a rookie kicking out of a finisher in his first televised match probably could happen before. Probably will never happen again.
Right. Now, I'd heard years ago, and again, I don't know how true this is or not. The quote-unquote original plan was Goldberg was going to end up in the NWO.
Well, everyone else was there.
So. Right. Everyone and their mom.
That's what made it shitty.
I think my grandma, who had her hips broken years before, was going to end up in the NWO back then. So.
And then she joined the Wolfpack, and then she was in the LWO, which didn't make any sense.
It really didn't. It really didn't.
That's what, not getting off topic, but that's what killed it for me.
Right.
I remember that the WCW game on 64 and Nintendo 64, and you could scroll through and the different fashion. factions. You got to the WCW page, there was like 6 guys on it. NWO had like 37 guys. Wolfpack had like 18 guys.
He's not exaggerating, folks. He's
kind of just, yeah, it sucked. Like, honestly, if it would have just stayed like Hall, Nash, and Hogan as the NWO, and then maybe they got like a couple other guys, but Jesus,
maybe sprinkle in a few others, not too many, but
yeah.
So Goldberg wins a match.
Want to know?
Next week, he goes on Nitro, wins another match.
Who did he face in his second match? Because Hugh Morris always sticks out to me.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. Like, let me pull it up real quick.
Now, I know that streak kind of went up quick. Like, they were counting house shows, even though I don't think they were doing house shows at the time.
Okay, so he beat Hugh Morris the first week.
Yeah.
Let me get this back up real quick. The second week, as soon as this website decides to work, he beats the Barbarian.
Okay.
Hey, the Barbarian's no joke.
Yeah, no, I wasn't like trying to mock that or anything. I'm like, oh, this isn't like Joe Smith from Mississippi. Well, they're in Mississippi. These are like legit wrestlers,
right?
Like Hugh Morris, he was a big deal. He was like
and the Barbarian was still kind of a big deal in '97.
Yeah. So this is '97. This is kind of like the beginning of Degeneration X, '97. See, I always thought it was earlier. I thought it was like '96 when Shawn Michaels was the champ, and WWF was having a hard time drawing, and I didn't realize it was in '97 this was going on.
And then his third televised match, and I'm just putting it out there, which aired on the 11th of October, is an episode of WCW Saturday Night where he defeats Roadblock.
Ooh. I don't know that. Okay.
Exactly. Roadblock.
Okay. I should know him.
I don't know. So
we do full roadblock for the next episode. It'll be 8 minutes long while we Google find out what his name is.
So Goldberg, he's winning a few matches here. And then his first feud in WCW is with a former football player, Steve Mongo McMichael. And the only reason Goldberg is even in this feud is because Steve McMichael's wife, Deborah, brings him into the feud.
Oh, you don't like Deborah? What's that?
I've watched some of the old promos that she used to do at WCW. She may be the origin of Karen's.
Yep.
Cannot stand that woman. So anyway,
Karens don't like that moniker.
So the whole purpose of the story is Deborah steals the Super Bowl ring that Steve won when he was with the Chicago Bears, and gave it to Bill Goldberg.
Hey, I got this for you.
Exactly. Okay. So Goldberg's first pay-per-view match is Starrcade '97.
Kind of a big pay-per-view.
Yeah. You've been in the business like on TV for 3 months, and your first pay-per-view is at the biggest show in the company's history.
Yeah, this is Bret Hart's debut, and
Hogan
that went.
There's like a bajillion things going on in that show. And Goldberg beats Steve McMichael.
So what happened with the Super Bowl ring? Did Goldberg go, "Oh, hey, thanks," and then put it on his finger?
I wish he did. That would have been great.
I'm a champion. Yeah.
Hey, I got a Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, I wasn't watching Nitro every week, so I don't know what happened.
I think McMichael eventually got it back.
So Goldberg kept it. He's like, sweet.
for a few weeks anyway.
I'd be like, I didn't win the Super Bowl. Why are you
Hey, he won what was it? He won World Bowl II in the World Football League of America, or whatever the
And
hell
he
it
was the
was.
Surge or whatever he's in.
Right.
At least he won the title for the league that never existed.
Exactly. So,
Better than being eighth place.
and there was only one team, and the team finished eighth. Anyway,
Right.
so Goldberg, something's starting to happen with Goldberg here. He's starting to get popular. Like, he's starting to get popular with the fans.
Yeah.
Because he has these short matches, and he brings this intensity that I don't know had been, seen in a long time. And, he, slowly the phenomenon of Goldberg comes to play, because, he'll have the fireworks in 98. He'll have the security walking him down to the ring. It's becoming, he's becoming a big deal.
Yeah.
So at Spring Stampede, and I'm only mentioning this to set up what's going to happen next, he beats Perry Saturn. So the next night on Nitro, he challenges Raven for the United States title. Raven, the night before, had won the U.S. title from Diamond Dallas Page. So this is, like, at the time, the biggest win Raven gets in WCW. Maybe the biggest win he ever gets in WCW.
Yeah, I'd say so.
So Raven defends the title against Goldberg. Goldberg is 74-0 at the time. And Raven, he does the Raven's Rule thing. Flock gets involved, but Goldberg destroys him.
Mm-hmm.
And then the end of the match is so weird, because Raven tries to leave, and then a bunch of big guys, like, carry him and throw him back to ringside, and it's never explained who they are. So it's like,
WCW is the best.
It's
They
hilarious.
just do things that we don't have to explain it. People
Right.
just...
So Goldberg spears him, and then he hits that suplex move, which has a name now. It's called the Jackhammer, which I actually like that name. I'll admit it. I love that name for that move.
Yep.
And Goldberg,
too many people use that move too.
right? And Goldberg wins the United States title. It's his first title in WCW. He's 75-0.
And it took him 74 matches to get a title shot when you're undefeated. Come on, WCW, get your stuff together.
So the popularity of Goldberg continues. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And the winning streak gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And I do want to mention a couple things about the streak before I forget. There have been rumors, depending on how you want to look at it, where they would add on to the streak when he didn't even wrestle on house shows. So, like, let's say he's 80-0 one week. By the time we get to Nitro the next week, he's 86-0. Yeah. And he probably didn't even have a match.
Yeah, like sometimes it seemed like he'd have like 8 matches over the weekend.
Right.
But,
so
doesn't matter if you want to inflate the number or if he had a match in house shows.
Yeah. And then
it doesn't matter.
And then one more thing before I forget. This is a legend. I don't know if the legend is true or not. There is a story, and if someone can confirm it, please let me or DK know. Goldberg, before the streak became a big thing, he wanted beautiful Bobby Eaton to end the streak, because they were in Bobby's hometown of Huntsville, Alabama. And he wanted Eaton to end the streak. So Goldberg had respect for, the elders, the veterans. And if that story is true, and I kind of believe it is, that shows you how much class and respect Goldberg had for the veterans.
Yeah. It wouldn't have made a lot of sense for Goldberg's character for that to happen,
Right.
but for him to offer that.
Exactly. So we're gonna fast forward about 2+ months because we're getting into big time territory.
Yeah.
Goldberg's US champion hasn't lost a match. So there's going to be on July the 6th a Nitro in the Georgia Dome in Atlanta.
Yeah.
On the episode of Thunder before that, J.J. Dillon, who was their authority figure, that's how I'm going to put it, is authority figure, announces the main event of that show. The main event of that show, Hollywood Hulk Hogan is going to defend the world heavyweight title against Goldberg. And this gets a big pop.
Yeah.
Like, this is a huge freaking deal. Because we have to, and again, I'm not trying to, bash our younger fans. I'm really not. But we're in the middle of the Monday Night War. And they're both going for ratings. WWF's going for ratings, WCW's going for ratings. So they're going back and forth.
This was July of 98.
July of 98.
Okay.
Raw, and I'm actually going to pull up the Raw episode results here in a moment. That week's Raw is taped.
Yeah.
So this is a week after the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view.
Okay, which we just
did in the last episode.
Check it out.
Right. So Nitro's going to be live. It's going to be in the Georgia Dome. And we also have to take into consideration that this is the final Nitro before Bash at the Beach 98, which is going to have Dennis Rodman teaming up with Hulk Hogan again to face Diamond Dallas Page and Karl Malone. So WCW in this time, they've got some huge things coming their way.
Yep.
They have this pay-per-view media coverage because they got Rodman again and they've got Karl Malone in the mix. But now you have Hulk Hogan defending the title against this new star, Bill Goldberg. Let me read to you the results from the episode of Raw, which I had said was taped.
Yep.
So this episode of Raw takes place at State College, Pennsylvania at the Bryce Jordan Center. We start off with a brawl for all.
Oh, God.
Savio Vega defeats Brockus. Then we have Ken Shamrock beating Jeff Jarrett by disqualification when Mabel interferes.
Mabel?
Mabel.
Still around in 98?
Oh.
How did they lose the war? Well, I know how. If we want to talk about 2000.
Yeah.
WCW 2000 would be a fun show.
Right.
We'll talk about that someday.
Maybe. Vader and Bradshaw went to a no contest when Kane and Mankind interfered.
Ooh, I see a pattern.
Skull and 8-Ball, the DOA, defeated the Headbangers.
The Headbangers are still around?
Yep.
Oh, shit.
Hey, they had that really good 6-man tag like a week ago. Kicking a ring. So anyway.
Right.
D'Lo Brown defeats Terry Funk. Then we have another brawl for all where Road Warrior Hawk and Draws go to a draw when they're tied on points. I can't make this shit up.
And we should offer our condolences to Draws' family,
Yes,
because
absolutely.
we usually talk about if something happens before the show starts. So I want to apologize for not mentioning that.
Yeah.
Darren Drozdov did pass away, but he'd been paralyzed for the last, I think, 19 years.
Yeah, long time.
So, yeah, but yeah, I remember that. I remember that brawl for all. Jesus Christ. Good stuff.
Val Venus defeated Dustin Runnels by disqualification when Kai and Tai interfered. Yep. Our second or third match where someone interferes. Ken Shamrock defeats Mabel with the ankle lock.
Mabel has 2 appearances on this Raw. Oh my God.
And the main event, and I'm going to have to explain this a little bit, is a triple threat match where the winner is the number 1 contender to the WWF title. The match is Kane, Mankind, and The Undertaker.
And this was before the Fully Loaded pay-per-view?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Undertaker comes.
Kane comes out. Mankind comes out. There's no Undertaker. Kane beats the ever-loving crap out of Mankind. So okay. Kane pins Mankind to win the match.
Sure.
But then he takes his mask off and reveals it to be the Undertaker. So the Undertaker is the number 1 contender to the title.
So Kane just no-showed?
Well, he either no-showed or he was like, okay, big brother, I'll let you have the next title shot.
I'll let you have this one, even though I've been mad at you for 20 years.
You burned me, but
it's all good. Yeah, see, okay, so I want to say one thing. I had always criticized WCW for not kind of promoting this big, huge match and putting it on a big show. But I didn't realize it was like right before they had this Dennis Rodman tag team angle. So it almost, I don't know, it kind of makes sense. It's still a little confusing for me.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so you're going to have a tag team main event. The guy's the heavyweight champion. He's a super heel.
Mm-hmm.
You're just going to have him lose the title like 6 days before he's in the main event.
Mm-hmm.
And now I would say Bash at the Beach is their second biggest show of the year. That's my opinion.
At the time,
Starcade's number 1. And then I would say Bash at the Beach is kind of like their SummerSlam.
Actually, that would be a pretty good discussion. Like we could get a couple of
Bash at the Beach, like some of the big time things that have happened on that for that company. Like that's when Hogan turned heel and joined the NWO was a Bash at the Beach. I think a few other crazy things have happened. And you got the Dennis Rodman angle here. That's like, I'm not as big a WCW fan as you probably are. So, but yeah, that'd be a fun debate.
I mean, I was like WWF through and through, but I did watch WCW as well. So
okay, so we're kind of like a little bit.
I was kind of more like
a whole pay-per-views a year.
Yeah, but if I was getting a pay-per-view on most occasions, it was going to be WWF.
But see, the problem for me was WCW never came to Canada.
Never.
So like I could never go and watch it live, so I just had to watch it on TV. So and WWF would come twice a year. So
yeah. Okay, so with this Nitro, so we've already told you what happened on Raw. It's a taped show.
Yeah.
Hogan at the beginning of the show is like, hold on a minute. Goldberg's not getting a title shot that easy. If he wants to get a title shot, he's got to beat a fellow NWO member of my choosing. And if he beats him, then and only then is he going to get the title shot.
Okay.
Who does he pick? I'll let you know in a couple of minutes. So here's what happened on the Nitro. 41,000 in attendance. I think it's their biggest attendance they ever did, WCW.
And you know what? If they would have promoted it a little bit, probably could have got more in there.
That was a big arena. I don't know if you could have gotten any more people in that night.
Well, it was a football stadium. You probably could have got 80,000 in the Georgia Dome. Like I know, like when they did WrestleMania there, they had like 70 plus thousand. Not saying the Nitro is WrestleMania, but like I think if you promote it a little bit, got a former Georgia Bulldog, former Atlanta Falcon for the title against Hulk Hogan. Like, now I know that they wanted to have like this kind of surprise thing that happened, but I don't know.
So here's all the matches on this Nitro. Booker T beats Dean Malenko after Chris Jericho interferes, because Malenko and Jericho are in a pretty big feud at that time. Raven defeats Canyon by disqualification. In the Battle of the Scots, Scott Putski defeats Scotty Riggs.
Battle of Scots.
Yeah. Chris Jericho defeats the Ultimo Dragon by disqualification. Chavo Guerrero Jr. beats Johnny Swinger. The Public Enemy defeat Alex Wright and Disco Inferno by disqualification.
Oh, Disco. Damn it.
By the way, this is the 3-hour era of Nitro. I forgot to mention that.
Okay.
So, Bill Goldberg's going into his first match. This is the match to officially get him the title shot. His opponent, Scott Hall. Okay, that's a good pick. Good pick. Goldberg beats Scott Hall. So now Goldberg gets the title shot. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
Juventud Guerrera defeats Psychosis. The Giant defeats Jim Duggan. Diamond Dallas Page defeats Jim the Anvil Neihart. And your semi-main event, non-title match, Lex Luger and Sting defeat Kidman and Sick Boy.
All right.
But now we're getting to the main event. And we just had actually a few days ago the 25th anniversary of this match.
Yeah.
So big deal, because Michael Buffer's doing the announcing. Goldberg comes out. You're doing the Goldberg chants. Hogan comes out. Towards the end of the match, and again, I remember seeing this when it happened, Kurt Hennig comes outside to maybe interfere. Well, Diamond Dallas Page and Karl Malone come out to ringside, and they beat up Kurt Hennig, which distracts Hogan. Goldberg hits the spear, and then, as you see in the footage, everything is being thrown into the ring as Goldberg picks up Hogan, gives him the jackhammer. 1, 2, 3. Goldberg is the new WCW World Heavyweight Champion.
Now, you think people are throwing stuff in the ring because they didn't like the finish?
No,
they didn't want Goldberg to win.
No, not towards Goldberg. It was just they used to do that shit every week.
Oh, it's just okay. They're just throwing because hey, it's the end of the night. I don't know where to put this can.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
yeah, it was a pretty big deal. Pretty big deal.
It's a big deal, and I'm not defending WCW for what I'm about to say, because that is a big time match. Should that have been saved for a Starrcade or a Halloween Havoc? Yeah, it should have. But
I think timing wise, it just worked.
Yeah, that's it. It was timing. You couldn't
get the belt off Hogan. You could have Goldberg be champ.
Like, you could not hold back the popularity of Goldberg any more than you possibly could have. Because
Yeah.
like if you had held that match back maybe even 2 more months, the people would have been tired. It had to be done. It was a live show. Your opposing show is taped. You already know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But again, to those who say that match should have been held, I understand. I don't disagree with you. It's just if you're gonna shoot the bullet, you better do it as soon as possible. And they did.
Now, if they didn't have Rodman, do you think they would have maybe made that for the pay-per-view?
Maybe. I could see that actually.
Because he could have had Goldberg has to run the gauntlet or something. He has to beat
Mm-hmm.
Scott Hall. He has to beat Nash. He has to beat whoever else was in the
Right.
NW. And then he
Right.
finally gets to face Hogan. And then,
Mm-hmm.
but going back, like in my opinion, the WWF was about stories and their pay-per-views at that time, I think. WCW was about ratings.
Yeah.
Nitro. They wanted to beat Raw. That's all they cared about. I don't think they cared about storylines and getting to the next thing. I don't think they ever planned 6 months in advance. I think it was like, what can we do tonight?
Mm-hmm.
Beat Raw. What is Stone Cold and Vince gonna do? How do we
Beat
how
them.
do we how do we beat them? We do it live. We give out results and just worry about the ratings. And that's kind of what they were doing.
And they did win they did win the ratings for that night.
Yeah. Well, 83 weeks they won it, right?
Right. But I
From
mean on this
96 to I know they hadn't won in a while here.
yeah, but
But
the
they were
night
in 90.
Goldberg wins, they
Yeah.
that night. So
Well, hopefully you win the ratings when the other show's taped.
right.
And you have this big time match that has been announced done on the Thunder.
So Goldberg's official first title defense is 6 days later at the Bash at the Beach pay-per-view, where he defends the title against Kurt Hennig. Goldberg wins in under 4 minutes. So his record is now at 112-0.
And it wasn't a main event, right? Because they had Hogan as a main event.
Yeah, Hogan was the main. This was like the semi-main event.
Okay.
So Goldberg's now the world champion. And the thing is, well, you need to build up challengers.
Yeah.
So, okay, Goldberg's going to defend the title at the August show. No, they have him in an NWO battle royal where he beats both NWO groups.
Oh my God. So bad.
It was Road Wild. It was Sturgis. What the hell are you going to do with Goldberg?
It's like I've talked about in previous episodes on different things. The chase is always the best.
Yeah.
Once you're the champion, you need challengers.
Mm-hmm.
And like I've talked about that with when Stone Cold won his first title. Like they didn't have enough heels lined up for him.
Right.
So Dude Love had to be a heel there. And like it was a little underwhelming. And I think Goldberg kind of had the same type of situation here.
So, how do we decide the next challenger for Goldberg? Well, we're going to do it at the September pay-per-view, and Goldberg's not even going to be there. So, what they do is at the September pay-per-view, it is Fall Brawl, which traditionally meant the War Games.
Yeah.
And I'm only bringing this up to set up what we're going to get. So for this War Games, instead of the traditional 2 teams of 4 or 2 teams of 5, it is 3 teams of 3. Team WCW, Team NWO Black and White, and Team Wolfpack. Whoever, this is important, whoever gets the fall gets the title shot. So there's no like submission surrender thing. There's no
This is basically like a triple threat, like 9-way match then
in 2 rings.
in 2 rings.
Right.
Ball Brawl 98. I might have to
Yep.
check it out. I don't think I've ever saw that show.
Uh
It sounds chaotic. I like chaos.
the main that main event. I try my best with that match, that main event. I mean, it's not the worst, but anyway,
This is where Nash wins, right?
in the end, Diamond Dallas Page wins the match.
Oh, right. Yeah, I was skipping ahead.
So
Okay.
Page gets the shot at Goldberg at Halloween Havoc,
Right.
which is the main event of that show. Even though it's Hogan Warrior, the rematch.
Oh my God.
DK, we've known each other for a few years now. I wouldn't even punish you to watch.
I was going to say, okay, we haven't done a WCW review. That might be a fun one just because there's a lot of chaos that goes
I've
into
already
it.
seen the show.
Hogan and Warrior 2. And then the Goldberg match, which we'll talk about how it kind of gets screwed up with the timing.
Yeah, exactly. Because the show ran longer than expected, a lot of the cable providers cut off the feed when the match began. So not everybody got to see this match. So what they did the next night on Nitro was basically air the match in its entirety for free, because a lot of the cable networks were like, oh, it's 11 o'clock. Okay, time to turn off the show.
Oh, I'll just turn this off because they didn't pay for this.
Time to do the replay. But this match, in my honest opinion, ends up being Goldberg's best match in WCW.
Like his career?
Maybe even his career. It is
I've seen his match. It's funny because I didn't watch the pay-per-view, but I watched it for free.
Oh, I didn't watch the show either.
People were talking about it. And I do remember a lot of people being mad that paid for the show, and they're like, "Oh, so now the main event's for free on Nitro." But that's October. That's Halloween. You know what? Okay, I forgot about Halloween Havoc. Bash at the Beach might be the third show. Right. Halloween Havoc kind of like a big deal for WCW.
It was.
But I don't think things need to be spaced out a little bit more because Starcade's their bet. They're number one. And it's like 2 months later.
The thing, I will say one thing with WCW and Halloween Havoc, at least they put an effort into the Halloween theme every year. Like they never, sugarcoated it. It was like, oh, it's Halloween Havoc. We got to have a Halloween, theme somehow. Sure. Either it be the announcers dress up or.
I remember the set. The set was really cool. Like they had like pumpkins and stuff.
So if you've never seen this match, go out of your way to watch this match. It is a fantastic match. It's not a 5-star match, but it's a hell of a match to watch. It really is. So Goldberg retains the title. He holds on, not by much, but he holds on to the title.
DDP hit the Diamond Cutter, right?
He did.
Did he kick out of it?
The Diamond Cutter.
Was there like shenanigans, or did he just kick out?
Just a straight up kick out. No one interfered.
That's a big move to kick out of.
Okay, so while this is going on, you mentioned a couple of minutes ago, well, why haven't they developed any heels as challengers? Well, Chris Jericho, for the last couple of months, has been mocking Goldberg. He's been doing his own streak. He even had his own security. That's where Ralphus comes to play.
That was some good stuff.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I was kind of heartbroken when I heard Ralphus passed away a few years ago.
Yeah.
That was sad.
I know Jericho had a thing on his podcast about
it. He did. Unfortunately, we never got the Goldberg-Jericho match. Because I think, in reading Jericho's book, he thinks that match should have main evented Starrcade that year. And Jericho would have been fine losing the match. He said it in his book. Like, you could have had us at Starrcade. I could lose in 5 minutes. I'd have been fine with it.
Do you think Jericho was a main eventer in WCW though? I don't think they saw him that.
I know, but when you got,
Like knowing what we know, Jericho
yeah,
is the main eventer. But at that time,
time.
before he was Y2J, he was kind of like a mid card guy.
I know, but I mean, I don't know. So,
Like because that's their WrestleMania.
mhm,
Not going
right,
back, but I don't think you can have Chris Jericho as what he was with Ralphus and WCW be the main event of the biggest show of the year. Even if it's a squash 5 minute match.
right.
Just don't think it would have worked.
So
Would have
the
been better than what
next,
they did.
right, it
we're
probably would have
getting
ended up being better than what they did.
we're getting there.
So the way to determine who the next challenger is going to be is with World War III, which, and folks, I'm saying this right now, we better enjoy them while they're on the WWE network or the cock, because if we ever get to World War III, I don't think these shows will ever be up again. So,
They'll just bleep it out. WW3, they'll call
so okay, so for those that don't know what World War III is, their big match is a 3-ring 60-man battle royal. So kind of like the Royal Rumble, except hey, three
everybody.
rings, 60
Everybody's in
men.
there at the same time, right?
Exactly.
It's not like people coming out and
Exactly. So
yeah. So that's what
Kevin Nash wins the battle royal. He eliminates Lex Luger and Scott Hall at the end. And that was a whole big deal because Hogan was going to be in it. He was saying, I'm going to win this. I'm going to get the title shot. And then they're like, oh, Hogan's not on tonight. Which will
okay.
play it to some kind of a significant factor in a couple of minutes.
Yep.
So, as we're building up the Starcade, there's a new guy in WCW, Bam Bam Bigelow. And he's been going after Goldberg. Okay, Bigelow's, size wise, he's a threat. He's a threat to Goldberg. But I know. Not so let's get to let's get the Starcade. December 27th, 1998. Goldberg is 173-0 at the time. He is facing Kevin Nash. During the pay-per-view, they announce that it is a no disqualification match. And they're like, okay, who made the decision? We don't know. So we have the match. Oh, it's at the MCI Center in DC. So same place as 97. Here's how the end of the match goes. Disco Inferno interferes. I wish I was lying, but I'm not.
I love Disco. Did he come out in his shiny jacket?
No, he came out in a Wolfpack shirt. He was trying to get in the Wolfpack at the time.
Oh, right.
Then Bam Bam Bigelow gets involved. Hey, that makes more sense than Disco Inferno.
Was Bam Bam trying to join the NWO too?
No.
Okay.
So as Goldberg is in the corner, here comes a security guard. He's got a taser. He tases Goldberg, but it's not a security guard. It's Scott Hall.
It's like one of those cattle things.
Yeah, one of the cattle prods.
Yeah.
So this stuns, like, honestly, pardon the pun, stuns Goldberg. Nash hits the jackknife. 1, 2, 3. Nash wins the title. The streak is over at 173-1.
Okay. So in the Goldberg documentary, he wanted Scott Hall to shoot him with a police taser. Like that one where you like it shoots out like a gun and then it sticks to them.
Mm-hmm.
Like he wanted to actually get shot with one. So it looked as real as possible. And like he hated the cattle prod thing. But it was kind of funny. Like he's like 1, and then he's like having like a mini seizure, and then 2 seizure, 3. Like, oh my God. This is for me, like the next, like we'll talk about the next stupid thing that they did.
Mm-hmm.
But this is when it died for me.
Yeah.
This is when the war was over.
I do want to mention briefly.
But you had to have Goldberg lose eventually.
Yeah, at
He was
some point he
he
has
was
to
an
lose
undefeated babyface champion.
for
Like
over a year.
like what we're talking about before, like with Roman Reigns having a champion forever. It's okay when you're the heel. It gets stale when the good guy just keeps winning and winning.
Right.
You get rid of it.
Okay. So I do want to mention this one story real quick because I've heard this story before. There's, again, this is another legend. After Starrcade was over, Mike Tenay and Bobby Heenan both looked at each other and said, "It's over," meaning WCW. So they knew the moment Goldberg lost that match, it was over.
Well, okay, so Kevin Nash
Is the
on
booker at the time. We got to mention that.
on
He's
the
the booker.
on the booking team has creative control in his contract. Now, if you talk to Kevin Nash on different things that they've talked about on the network, he said he didn't book that match, which I think is bullshit. But take him like why would he lie about it 20 years later?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'd be like, yep, champ makes more. Like
I'm gonna
Goldberg
put
had
myself
to lose,
over. Why the fuck
Goldberg had to
not?
lose eventually. I don't know like a better way that could have been done. But we'll talk about like this really doesn't have much to do with Goldberg, but the
Right.
finger poke of doom is pretty much the next night, right?
Well, almost.
What wouldn't have been better to have like some like Hulk Hogan versus Goldberg and then someone cheats to help Hogan rather than what they did?
Well,
Like I know it's a way to get the NWO guys back together in one group, but like it's more of a Goldberg show, so I don't know if you're gonna touch on that or not.
well, what I'm going to mention is the following. So the next night on Nitro, they announced the rematch is going to take place the following week, Nash and Goldberg. So that is announced. Goldberg's not on the show. So I think they gave him that week off. So you got a week to get ready for Nitro.
He was cattle prodded. Maybe he should get a night off.
Now, what we're going to do, DK, is the same thing we did the night that Goldberg won the title here.
Okay.
We're going to talk about what happened on Raw the night of this episode of Nitro. So WCW, okay, they've told us in advance Goldberg's getting his rematch for
This
the World
January
title
99, right?
in the Georgia Dome.
Okay.
You got 38,000 there. So the crowd's a little bit smaller, but still a decent crowd. Raw is taped. So this show is taped, Raw.
Yeah. I know where you're going with this.
Here are the results from the show. Steve Blackman beats Ken Shamrock in a non-title match. All right, you'd think Blackman would get a title shot, but I don't think he ever does. Almost said Goldberg. Goldust defeats Mark Henry by disqualification. The Godfather and Test go to a no contest. Triple H beats Mankind to earn a spot in the Royal Rumble match. After the match, Mankind puts a submission move on Shane McMahon until Vince gives him a title shot against The Rock later in the night, which he does. Edge faces D'Lo Brown to a no contest. Kane beats Pat Patterson and Gerald Briscoe in a handicap match.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
The Road Dogg beats Al Snow in a match for the hardcore title where it is snowing outside. Again, this is taped.
They're wrestling outside?
Yeah, that match went outside.
So Al Snow lost in the snow?
Yeah, unbelievable. You'd think, the superpower come into play.
Yeah, you'd think he'd have some sort of powers.
I know. And the main event, Mankind beats The Rock in a no DQ match to win the WWF title.
And I think the biggest pop in the history of wrestling was that night when Austin came out.
Now, before we get to the Nitro results, Mick Foley has stated and has admitted Nitro should have beaten them in the ratings that night because that show, one was taped, and Mick even said that was not a good show. So Mick is like, hey, biggest moment of my career, I win the title. The show wasn't that good.
That was the first time he won it, right?
Yeah, first time he ever wins the title.
Okay.
Hey, gotta love Mick. He's being honest.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So before we get to the results of this Nitro, we have to mention during the match or during the show, Goldberg gets arrested. Wait, what? Goldberg gets arrested?
That's where he's stalking Elizabeth.
Yeah, it was something like that. It was either like he stalked her or he inappropriately touched her or something.
Yeah, like they were trying this horrible angle, and I think they changed it at the end to stalking. Like,
yeah.
oh my God, what are you doing?
So as Goldberg is being taken out of the building, presidential candidate Hulk Hogan, yes, this is a real thing, comes into the building. Because, everybody wanted to run for president in the year 2000. I couldn't. I would have been 15 at the time.
I couldn't. I'm Canadian.
There you go. So.
Not fair.
So Hogan realizes, hey, Goldberg's not here. He's going to jail. Why don't I face Nash for the title tonight?
Yeah, since I'm here, you might as well just get a title match, even though I don't deserve it.
So now that we got that set up, here's the results of this Raw or Nitro. I mean. Hugh Morris beats Glacier. Booker T beats Emery Hale. Do not ask me who he is. I have no idea.
I've never heard that name in my life.
Chavo Guerrero Jr. beats Norman Smiley. Chris Benoit defeats Horace Hogan. Chris Jericho defeats Perry Saturn by disqualification. Psychosis and Juventud Guerrera defeat Billy Kidman and Rey Mysterio. That probably was a pretty good match, sounding like it. Conan defeats Scott Steiner by disqualification. Bam Bam Bigelow and Wrath went to a double countout. And Diamond Dallas Page defeats Brian Adams. So, at some point during this Nitro comes the moment that probably forever changes wrestling history. Before they go to a commercial break, Tony Schiavone is told to spoil the ending of Raw. And he tells everyone, do not change the channel. Don't leave us. The other show is taped. Mankind, who used to wrestle for us, is going to win their world title tonight. And then the immortal lines, that'll put butts in the seats. And as soon as he says those words,
was like 4.5 million people changed the channel.
Yep.
Now, like, I didn't have that opportunity because, like I said, like Nitro was taped for us, so we didn't get to see it till Wednesday. But
right.
Yeah, like, how do you? Okay, it's about to be a commercial.
Yeah.
Even if they had said it before their main event, like, why are you even mentioning that? They're already watching your show.
But here's the thing, though, and I want to say something that never gets talked about with that. Never. So, as we said, that Raw is taped on the WWF website. And I remember this because this is during my winter break. They put up on their website, Mankind won the title on Wednesday. On Wednesday. So we knew 5 days in advance Mick won the title. No one ever talks about this.
Okay,
no
so
one.
They used to do the Raw live, and then they do a Raw on Tuesday that was the following Raw.
Right. But no one ever brings
Why
up
wouldn't they just do like why wouldn't they do the live one that had a big moment like that? Like why? Hey, like what that happened?
But DK, here's the thing. No one ever brings up the fact that WWF put the result up on their website and kept it up for 5 days. No one.
It's 5 days before. So
I want to say that again. You broke up.
WCW didn't really spoil anything.
Exactly.
No, I'm just saying, they basically had it on the website, so it's not like Tony Schiavone spoiled it. Like
Right.
if you had the internet and you were like an avid fan and you were looking that stuff up, but we do know they changed. A lot of people changed the channel there, and
Yeah,
I never understood. Like Tony Schiavone, like saying it was okay, mocking McFoley, and like, oh, I can't believe he's going to be champion. He was like a mid carder here, whatever. But they were already watching Nitro.
But here's
Just inviting people to change the channel by telling them what's on the other channel.
And here's
right for a commercial.
And
because
here's the
people do, they change the channel when the commercial comes on.
Here's the other thing. And Tony Schiavone gets a lot of crap for this.
Yeah.
He was told to say that.
Yeah.
He didn't decide, oh, I'm going to tell them what's happening on Raw. He was told to say that. Yeah. It was his job.
Yeah, he's being produced. I think Bischoff told him that.
So it's like, get off Tony Schiavone's case.
Yeah.
So, okay. So what's happening with Goldberg? Well, long story short, they find out that the whole thing with Elizabeth is a ruse.
No.
It's, you know, it was fake.
I like how they had cameramen in the police station.
I know, right?
How did they know?
So now we get to the main event. Hogan and Nash. Y'all know what happens. Finger poke of doom. Hogan wins the title. Goldberg gets there, but it's too little too late. He then gets beat up by the NWO. Yeah. And after that, he's not touching the world title anytime soon.
Yeah.
Because
kind of like the major crazy.
Because he has to get his revenge on Scott Hall, has to finish his feud with Bam Bam Bigelow, has to get his revenge on Nash, and then he's going to film a movie with Jean-Claude Van Damme. So he's away for a little while. And we get to Halloween Havoc, where he faces Sid Vicious for the United States title. Beats Sid for the US title. Then at the end of the night, because, you know, it's WCW booking, Sting, who had already defended the title earlier in the night, wants to defend the title again. Goldberg accepts the challenge. Goldberg wins the title back.
So did Goldberg have any other losses besides the one to Nash?
Well, not at this point.
So he was like, what, 301 at this point?
So,
I thought he was doing no-show matches.
So the next night after he beats Sting for the title, J.J. Dillon, still in charge, says, well, that match was not sanctioned by WCW. And the title is declared vacant. So the way that they solved this is they're going to have a 32-man
But
tournament.
Goldberg doesn't get it either.
Right. A 32-man tournament to crown a new WCW champion. So Goldberg, in the first round of the tournament, faces Bret Hart. And, oh, by the way, the match is for the United States title. And
But it's in the tournament as well.
it's in the tournament. And
But the title's on the line.
and would you
weird.
believe it? Bret Hart beats Goldberg. Bret Hart beats Goldberg to win the title and advance in the tournament.
Yeah. Well, he's a good Calgarian. Of course he won.
So after the tournament is over, Bret Hart wins the WCW title. Goldberg is the challenger for Bret Hart at Starrcade. Because, Bret's a good Canadian. He kind of felt bad what happened with old Bill. He's like, I'm going to give Bill Goldberg a title shot at the Starrcade. In the Starrcade, actually.
In the Starrcade.
In the Starrcade.
Not as good as in the Summerslam.
Right.
So we say as Canadians. It's okay though.
So as we go along on the road to Starrcade, Bret and Goldberg win the WCW tag team titles, only to lose it 1 week later.
Okay.
So now we go to Starrcade. This is Bret Hart, Goldberg, WCW title. During the match, Goldberg kicks Bret Hart in the head. And this gives Bret a concussion. We didn't know it at the time, but it does. So they go to the end of the match where they have a screw job, where Roddy Piper, who is a referee, comes in, calls for the bell, Bret Hart wins. So then, the next night, there's this whole thing where Bret Hart's like, I'm going to vacate the title, but I want to give Goldberg another shot. So it's Hart and Goldberg again for the title. And Bret Hart wins the belt after help from Scott Hall, Kevin Nash, and Jeff Jarrett. And this is the reformation of the NWO. Because when we think of going into the new millennium, we need to bring back the NWO.
So in 99, it kind of disbanded then.
Yeah. Okay. They never had an ending. It was like, we're done.
Yeah, they just stopped doing it all the time.
Yeah. Okay. So, as if this week cannot get bad enough, then we have an incident that almost ends Bill Goldberg's career. So on the December 23rd episode of Night of Thunder, at the end of the show, the NWO get chased by Goldberg. So the NWO go into their limousine. So there's a spot where Goldberg is going to break the windows on the limo. So the whole spot is, okay, we're going to have, the plexi windows in the limo. Bill's going to break them. That's going to be the bit. That's going to be the end.
Yeah.
Well, during this, he breaks one of the windows with his forearm, and a shard of glass cuts an artery in his arm, and he begins bleeding profusely.
So this wasn't safety glass?
No.
So they were supposed to use safety glass and they never did?
I believe, let me read this correctly.
Like the kind that kind of break on impact,
yeah.
Like I don't know if you remember the King of the Ring match with Shane and Kurt Angle.
Yeah.
Like they didn't use the right glass there. That's why Shane couldn't go through.
Mm-hmm.
Was it kind of like just the wrong stuff they were using?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So it says here on the Wikipedia, a spot in the sequence, the limousine sequence, called for Goldberg to pound on the windshield of the limousine with his hands.
Mm-hmm.
To ensure his safety, Goldberg had assistance from a piece of metal pipe, and his hands were covered in black tape. After this, Goldberg was to break some of the vehicle's windows with the pipe. There were 4 windows on the side of the limousine, and Goldberg used the pipe on 2 of them. He then got aggressive, dropping the pipe and putting his forearm through the 3rd window. A shard of glass sliced an artery in his arm, and he began bleeding profusely. The show concluded with Goldberg pounding on the limousine's hood, with the TV audience able to see the massive amount of blood gushing from his arm as it covered the hood. So they took him to the
It seems
hospital.
like he got frustrated with the spot.
Right.
And then because the pipe did the pipe fall out or did he pull it out?
I don't know. It doesn't say.
I remember watching that and like replay. I didn't see it live, but I remember watching a replay of it because of like what happened to him. And it seemed like he got frustrated with whatever was happening.
Right.
Because then he goes like for the 3rd one, it was like bash, bash, bash. And then you could tell like when it goes in, like he's like, oh shoot.
So in a week, in a span of a week, he accidentally kicks Bret Hart in the head, gives him a concussion.
Yeah.
Gets screwed out of the world title twice. And he almost has his forearm amputated. It was that close.
Yeah, that's a bad week.
His career could have ended right there.
Mm-hmm.
So because of that, he's off TV for months. He doesn't wrestle on the annual Tokyo Dome show in Japan, which is of not really any importance, but I just wanted to mention. So he comes back to TV on May 29th of 2000. And we're in the New Blood Millionaires Club rivalry. Yay.
Oh god.
At the Great American Bash pay-per-view in June, Goldberg betrays Kevin Nash and becomes a heel for the first time in his career.
And I remember that being interesting because the product was really stale. But there's this, I don't know. I think Goldberg should be like a baby face. Like I don't think he has that ability to be the heel.
Yeah, it wasn't good, and it didn't last long.
Probably because like sometimes the crowd just doesn't let you be a heel.
Because, well, it's Goldberg. And yeah, and the fans won't,
It's still gonna chant his name.
exactly.
They're gonna cheer him when he does his moves.
So after he loses a match with Scott Steiner at a pay-per-view in September, Goldberg is now put in a very interesting situation. So Vince Russo is still there this late in 2000. So they come up with this angle. And on paper, it sounds like a decent angle. Vince Russo will not give Goldberg a title shot. The only way Goldberg can get another shot at the world title is if he replicates his undefeated streak. So he has to go 173-0 to get his next title shot. However, there's a catch. The catch is the next match he loses, his career is over. He's done.
Okay.
So that's the catch. He either has to win 173 matches in a row to get his next title shot, or he's done. So at Halloween Havoc, he beats Chronic in a handicap elimination match.
Does that count as 2 wins?
I don't know, actually. In November at the Mayhem pay-per-view, he beats Lex Luger. At Starrcade, he beats Lex Luger again.
So that's
And then
4 though. So, geez, you're gonna have to like wrestle 4 or 5 years to get to 173.
I mean, I'm sure he's had like other matches on TV. So
Okay. I know they only made it to like March, so
right.
I don't think he's gonna make it.
So in January, at a pay-per-view called Sin, Goldberg is going to be in a tag team match where it's Lex Luger and Buff Bagwell against Goldberg and his trainer from the WCW power plant, Sergeant Buddy Lee Parker. During the match, a fan maces Goldberg in the face. And Luger and Bagwell win. So Goldberg's done. His career is over.
In a tag match.
What we don't know at that time is that it ends up being Goldberg's last match in WCW. Yeah. So what was originally going to happen was Goldberg was going to have shoulder surgery. After he has the shoulder surgery, WCW is going to bring him back, and who knows what happens from there.
Yeah.
But as we all know, Vince bought his competition.
In 01, right before Mania 17. So that would have been around April, March range of 01. So
the WWF does not buy out Goldberg's contract with AOL Time Warner, and Goldberg paid a lot of money that he is owed. He basically gets paid until May 2002 when he agrees to a contract buyout. He was WCW's highest paid athlete alongside Bret Hart, earning $2.5 million per year, a sum which would have risen to $3.5 million in the final year of his contract, due to have expired July 2003.
Yep.
And that is the story of Bill Goldberg in WCW.
Yeah. Kind of an interesting run, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Starting off as this unknown football player who kind of shocked everybody on that one Monday night.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so yeah, he only had a few losses in his WCW career, even in the WWE.
Mm-hmm.
He only had a few losses, I think. A little bit more than WCW, but guy was a big time winner. You talk about like winning percentages. He's probably got the highest winning percentage in wrestling history.
I mean, if you want to look at Bill Goldberg's career
for homegrown guy,
I'd say him and DDP are the two biggest homegrown guys from WCW.
No, for sure.
And Sting.
Know who do you count Sting as a homegrown guy?
That's a good point.
He was in other things.
Yeah, before. That's true. You're right.
But when you think of WCW, you think Sting, and then you think of Goldberg.
Right.
Like when I'm thinking, if I see the logo of WCW, I don't think of Hogan or Macho Man or guys like that were there. I think of Sting first and then Goldberg.
Mm-hmm.
And if I see the NWO logo, I think of Hogan, Nash, and Hall. Nobody else. When I see pictures of Bret the Hitman Hart wearing an NWO shirt, it just makes me cringe.
Right.
It's like, oh, you could have done so much more. And I'm looking forward to the Bret Hart and WCW show that we'll do to talk about kind of the craziness that went down.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is great, episode 50.
I mean, if we could describe Goldberg's career, I think it would be this: great physique, right place, right time. One of the biggest what ifs, I think. And the reason I say that is, let's say WCW doesn't get bought by Vince. Let's say someone else buys it. If it's not Eric Bischoff, I don't know who.
Like Bischoff was working on a thing, but he couldn't
He
get
almost had it.
Like if it was 10 years later and they had streaming services, WCW would have been still going probably.
Yeah. I think Goldberg, like I said, he was a phenomenon for the short time he was, he was the biggest star there.
Yeah.
He could also be considered one of the biggest what ifs if WCW stays running, because I think he would have had another run. I really do. Would it have been as big and as popular as the first one? I don't think so, but I think it would have been fun to have watched.
I don't think they would have survived. Like even if Vince doesn't buy them, like they didn't have any, like they didn't have any young up and coming guys. Like the guys that they had that could have been those guys left. And then basically the Hogans and the Nashes and the Halls were getting older. And the guys, like I just don't think, like if you watch WCW in the year 2000, like you know it's going down. Like I don't think it would have mattered. Like Vince bought it, so that changed it. But yeah, I don't know. I always thought Vince could have like bought it, like he could have ran it still, creating his own competition instead of just buying it for the library,
right?
And then bringing in guys that wanted to come. But that's a whole other episode. But yeah, man, that was great choice. I had my hesitations with Goldberg here, but it was really interesting, even learning some things I didn't know.
Yeah.
Episode 50.
It is in the books.
Very exciting. And yeah, thanks for listening, guys.
Yep. Couldn't have done it without y'all.
And we look forward to episode 100 down the line.
Yep, it will happen.
Oh, we'll get there.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, like we'll probably put some more polls up. We got a few that we got to catch up on and stuff.
We've got 2 pay-per-views to review.
Polls that have already been won.
We may have a Summerslam. Like, we're gonna review.
Why are you doing this show? Like, be patient. We're only 2 men here.
Yeah, we're only 2 men.
Settle down.
We have lives outside of this.
Yeah, we do. I swear. Well, thanks again. I'm DK. This is Bill.
We'll talk to you all next time.